Our next speaker is a former Four Horsemen delegate from Canal County, former state senator, former clerk of the House of Delegates, and former tight end of Brown University's football team. Please welcome Mr. Steve Harrison.
Dan, you had me smiling and laughing. That was good till the end. Great job. Tim Armstead was a giant in our state, but he didn't act like one. As Dan mentioned, he was an actual humble politician. He was a historic figure, House Minority Leader, the first Republican Speaker of the House in more than 8 decades, Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, and one of very few individuals to ever attain the highest positions. Okay, Mr. President, it's the co-highest position in the legislature, but the highest positions in 2 branches of state government: Speaker of the House of Delegates, Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. And he also served in the office of 2 governors. And had he had a few more years, he might have made it to the top of that branch as well. But despite those high offices and historic achievements, Tim did not act like he was better than anyone. He would almost seem a little shy when he would come into an event. He'd give a little wave, and then he would talk to everyone in the room. Tim loved serving people, serving his constituents. He was a dedicated public servant. We served together in what was then a 4-member 32nd District of the House. And yes, known as the Four Horsemen. So even though we weren't directly running against each other, we all were on the same ballot. So knowing Tim was going to every event, every parade, everywhere, it kept us all on our toes, because we know he was out there all the time. And Tim wasn't one that would just show up at campaign time. He was out there. He would go to every meeting. He loved serving, and he loved meeting his constituents. He loved what he did. He did have a true servant's heart, and he stayed busy doing that. Kept us all on our toes, because we knew he would be out there doing it, so we better be doing it too. He was a man of integrity. Rule 49 in the rules of the House directs that any member having a direct personal or pecuniary interest therein should announce this fact and request to be excused from voting. But because ours is a citizen legislature, and many laws affect the jobs of our members, the delegate is not excused if they are affected as a member of a class of 5 or more. So if 5 or more people are affected by a bill, and that's not just delegates, that's anybody, 5 or more people or entities are affected, then that member's not excused. We're a citizen legislature. Many laws affect the businesses and the lives of our members. So members are rarely excused because not many bills just affect 4 or fewer persons. So when I was in the House a few years before Tim, and before he became a delegate, I don't recall members asking for Rule 49 rulings that often before he arrived. Occasionally it would happen, but not that often. But if someone took the time to go through all the House journals and do a tally, I believe that Tim would have the record by far for the most Rule 49 requests made. And that was not because Tim had more conflicts than anybody. It was because Tim wanted to avoid even the appearance of impropriety. If he thought anyone might question his right to vote on a particular bill, he would make that request. And even though Tim may be the cause, and probably is the cause, of some members now going a little overboard and requesting to be excused because a bill deals with PEIA and their daughter is on PEIA along with thousands of others and is clearly a member of a class, Tim's integrity causes the other members to think more about integrity. And I used to kid him so much about his Rule 49 requests, but it was part of his integrity. He wanted to make sure people knew that he was doing the right thing, and he didn't want there to be any question about that. Tim was a friend that you could call at any time. Back before texting, I've known Tim a long time. Back before texting, I knew it was not a problem to call him at midnight or later. I knew he'd be up and glad to talk. Now, Dan Greer, on the other hand, if I called him past about 9 o'clock, I'd get Amy and she'd say he's in bed. So I learned, I could call Tim late at night. Don't call Dan late at night. And when you called Tim, he would listen. Yes, he would talk a lot, but he would listen. I think most of my conversations with Tim Armstead were probably an hour or more. I knew if Tim was calling, I was going to call him to set aside time because we were going to talk about things. We were going to talk things through. He was never in a hurry to get off the phone. And I think I will miss those phone conversations the most. Now, why did Tim Armstead become a giant in the history of our state? Why was he so dedicated to meeting and serving his constituents? Why was he such a good husband to Anna, a good dad to Katie, a good grandfather to Ann and Ben? Why was he a caring friend? I believe it is because, first of all, he was a dedicated follower of his Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. I believe Tim saw public service as his calling in life. In Colossians 3:23 and 24, we read, "And whatever you do, do it heartily as to the Lord and not to men, knowing that from the Lord you will receive the reward of the inheritance, for you serve the Lord Christ." As a delegate, as Speaker of the House, as Chief Justice, Tim served heartily as to the Lord. And in Matthew 5:16, we read, "Let your light so shine before men that they may see your good works and glorify your Father in heaven." Tim was not shy about letting his light shine and letting folks know the source of that light. For the many in this room currently in office or considering public service, let the life of Tim Armstead serve as a shining example that good people can serve in politics, that nice guys can finish first, and that you can serve Christ in the halls of government. I thank God for blessing West Virginia with Tim Armstead as a statesman. And I thank God for blessing me with Tim as a colleague and a great friend.